Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James, and it's time for another segment of Match Jesse James, at least playing online with our bullet games. Today I'm going to be playing against one of my chess coaches, Babakuli, and, well, he's a very cool guy. He is in Dallas right now. He has a lot of private lessons. He does, I think, two chess clubs right now over there, so he's doing very, very well. And, yeah, he's a great guy and a very, very strong chess player. Anyways, I got to play him some bullet games online. Let's see how it goes. In this first game, we're going to be playing with the black pieces, and Bobby is going to be playing with the white pieces. Here we go. We start up with d4, c5. Young Jesse was way too much into the modern Bayoni, which I have now not been playing too much, as it literally translates to the Son of Sorrow. And believe me, it is not the best opening. d5, e6, c4, pawn takes. All strong players, especially grandmasters as strong as Babakuli, will go ahead and play d5 here whenever c5 gets played. d6, knight c3, knight f6, e4. I like this way of playing. g6, h3, a very strong move here. A lot of times in the modern Bayoni, what will happen is if they play knight f3, black is more than happy to play bishop g4 and trade off the bishop for the knight. The reason being, this bishop is actually really bad in these lines, and as you'll see in this game, it actually does okay, but for the most part, in later games, you'll see how Babakuli just trashes me positionally. h3, stopping that pin. Bishop g7, knight f3. Castles, bishop d3. Not my favorite square for the bishop, but I will have to respect it since he plays it. I like bishop e2 myself in these lines because I think the bishop can go to f3. a6, trying to prepare b5. In this game, black is trying to get compensation by attacking down the e-file and also trying to get some queenside play going. Here, white is going to try and open up the center and then start a kingside attack. a4 getting played. Pretty much automatic anytime this b5 idea is being threatened. Knight to d7, castles. Queen c7 here, just guarding the d6 pawn, and also e5 is a major idea in these ones, so you're going to be seeing bishop f4 coming through, which prepares e5 and also puts pressure on this d6 pawn. Rook e1, rook e8, bishop f4, there's that bishop threatening to come over here, and knight to h5. An interesting idea here. Typically what you'll see in a lot of these lines is the knight will be transferred over to d2 and then c4 will have really good pressure on this d6 pawn, which is a very, very big hassle. Already computer's giving this a plus 1.8 advantage, almost 2 points, yet the game has just started and I can't really see anything I've done wrong. Here I went for an interesting idea that I believe Kasparov used to play. It's knight h5 to attack the bishop. Bishop retreats. Here we get a little bit more pressure or a little bit more control on the e5 square. But the new idea is going to be playing bishop h6 so I can get control over this f4 square. So I can either play bishop f4 to trade off the bishop right away or even knight f4 here. He played bishop c4. I'm not too sure why this move was played. Maybe he was scared about knight f4 coming to attack the bishop. And I went ahead and played knight f4. e5, he tries the thematic breakthrough. Again, this is not a bad move at all. Babakuli has a +2 advantage now. Knight takes. If you're going to be in a bad position, you might as well have some compensation, or a pawn in this case. Knight takes, pawn takes, rook takes on e5, and unfortunately here, I guess he just miscounted and just drops the piece. Rook takes on e5, definitely not the best move. I should have taken with the queen here, as you're going to see the theme after rook takes, d6 gets played, and he gets an extra tempo, opening up the bishop by attacking my queen. All right, I just got to hold the position, and that's easier said than done, right? Queen c6, bishop takes, knight to d5, a nice double attack on f6 and the f4 bishop. Bishop h6, knight e7 check. He's already won back some material very, very fast. Rook takes, pawn takes, and bishop d7. Very important you play bishop d7 and not bishop e6, as you'll just be embarrassed by this queen to d8 check here, at least losing the rook. All right, back to the game. Here, bishop d7, queen d3, bishop g5. Let's try to get rid of this pawn. Rook e1, bishop e8, and bishop d5. Here, I think best probably would have been something a lot more natural like rook e8. But again, in these bullet games, you're just trying to survive especially against stronger opponents. I have 30 seconds and he has 37 seconds. Bishop d5, queen c7, queen f3, bishop takes. Again, this pawn is worth a lot more than this one over here. And I will say that this bishop e8 actually worked out very well because it defends the f7 square. If you can imagine a rook on e8, f7 would not have been able to be defended. Pawn h4, just trying to create some weaknesses. Bishop takes, g3. Best way to beat a gambit is to accept it. Bishop b7, king g2. Rook b8, b3, bishop f8, rook h3, bishop g7, rook e1, rook d8, bishop c4, and that's it for him. Bishop c6. I was able to get my first win against Babakuli. All right, on to the second game. Get ready to get positional smashing. I remember whenever I was younger, a very good quote was, well, when you play against a strong player, you'll know that it's a strong player because you never seem to be able to attack them, right? They just positionally control you. You just get pushed off the board without even getting attacked. And that's the signature of a strong move. A strong player. With that being said, let's take a look at this game. Here again, I'm going to be playing with the black pieces. And again, I see pawn to d4. This time I went a little bit different and played pawn to f5. I want to go for a Dutch defense over here, and Babakuli was not taking it. e4, I love it. He goes ahead and plays what's called the Staunton Gambit. And, well, best way to beat one is to accept one. F takes on e4, knight c3, and then knight f6, f3. He's playing Blackmore's second gambit, so he's giving up another pawn over here. And, yeah, I really just like the way that he's playing in this line. It's very, very active. Pawn e6 got played. Pawn takes, d6, knight f3. Already white's in a better position here. Bishop b7, bishop c4, castles, pawn to d5, hoping that he'll take. Of course, Babakuli is too smart for this, and he plays bishop to b3. After takes take, then the position is about equal, and yeah, I'm pretty happy here, especially if he brings his bishop back to b3 now, c6, and well, it's just an equal position here, and I'm happy with this. With that being said, Babakuli doesn't get taken down too easily. Bishop b3, keeping this idea going, because even if I do take on e4, well, he has ideas like knight g5, winning back this pawn, and then I still have this e6 weakness here. So white's definitely better in this position. So I went ahead and played pawn c6 here, bishop g5, knight takes on e4. It's a free pawn for now, just like in the previous ones. It's going to be a weakness because of the e pawn, and he just takes full advantage of this. Knight takes, bishop takes, and then knight to e5. Why not put your knight on a good square? Knight to d7, queen h5, knight takes on e5, and queen takes on e5. His queen has gone to the perfect spot to attack both of my weaknesses. And yeah, I'm still lacking a bit of development here, as he can trade off real fast, and my bishop and rook here are still asleep, which is actually pretty common whenever you play these stonewall structures, or the Dutch defense. Bishop d7, trying to connect the rooks. Takes on e4, and the e6 pawn will probably fall. It's just a matter of time. King h8, c3. I love this. He's just keeping everything solid. I like the way he plays. Pawn c5, trying to get rid of this and maybe create some weaknesses. Bishop c2. Oh no, checkmate idea over here. Got to create some more weaknesses. g6, queen to e5 check. Queen g7. This is just a bad and lost endgame. Queen takes on c5. He says, not just yet. I'm going to grab this pawn over here before trading off queens. Bishop c6, rook takes, rook f1, trade him off, rook e8. Of course, I don't want to trade, but this is just bad for me. Queen e5, and here comes the lost endgame that I was talking about. I have no choice but the trade. Takes. I was actually very interested that he didn't want to just play rook e1 and then trade off, but to each their own. Rook d8, trying to grab the open file, but he gets the open file, and rook to d2 gets played. I thought this was going to be good enough, and even computers actually giving this as equality. As you see toward the end of this, the end game, he just dominated. Bishop b3, rook takes g2 check, king f1, rook takes h2, bishop takes e6. Now I have to worry about this pass pawn over here, as it's much closer over here. I do have two pass pawns, but again, this one is the one I have to be worried about. Rook h5, bishop d7. Very good move by him, because by trading off this bishop for this bishop, then these pawns become weak. Alright, rook takes e5, pawn takes, rook takes, and here I need to start pushing my pawns as soon as possible. Again, young Jesse 2 years ago did not know this. Rook f5 check, and I just start wasting time here. Here you see he slowly pushes his pawns forward, and I will not let this happen again. I got a very good lesson here by Babakuli about when you're in endgames, you should push your pawns. Here he just pushes forward very easily, and the game is not too much interesting here, as his class is just much better than mine in this game. And I did not want to resign, so I kept playing. And, of course, he just checkmates me. Game 2, Babakuli smashes me positionally. All right, here we go. Now we're on to Game 3. And, well, this time I actually get the white pieces. Here we go. I like to play e4. Babakuli goes ahead and plays c5. We got a Sicilian. You know I like to play those. Knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes, knight f6, knight c3, and e6. The modern way of playing it, or the French Sicilian. Because a lot of times you can get this French pawn structure here. I went ahead and played knight b3, pawn to d5, bishop to d3, Definitely not a good way for me to play this Sicilian, and I will not be playing this as white much anymore. Here he just is able to grab the advantage. d4, knight e2, e5, castles, bishop e7, and then pawn to h3. Ugh, I'm not very happy with my position, but it is about equal here, and I'm going to be able to start a counterattack pretty soon. Here, Babakuli wisely castles, and I play pawn f4, trying to break up his pawn structure and open up for a kingside attack. Alright, rook e8 got played, and I went ahead and played king h1 here, not allowing any kind of checks or ideas about pins in the future. Maybe the d4 pawn I want to win, but there's too many bishop c5 or queen b6 ideas that I have to deal with. Bishop d6 and pawn to a3. Again, if looking at this now with fresh eyes, I would have much rather have looked at playing something like f5 and g4, g5, keeping this close and waiting for him to attack me on the queen side. a3 gets played, pawn takes on f4, game on, and knight takes on d4. Here I went ahead and took the d4 pawn instead of the f4 pawn, so this pawn is still underneath attack. Of course, he can take over here on e4, but he goes ahead and plays knight takes first, knight takes, and then bishop to e5. Alright, knight back to f3, bishop back to c7. Again, e4 is the idea here, so I went ahead and played e5 here. Knight to h5, threatening knight to g3 check. He's doing a very good job by controlling the dark squares over here. Rook e1, knight g3 check, king h2, and here I just think he gets a little too ambitious and plays pawn g5. And I don't blame him because, well, g5 is a good move to hold on to the pawn, and maybe if you play e5, you're used to doing this as king's gambits. Just like Bobby Fischer used to say, when you play against king's gambit, just take on f4, and then play g5, and then you're winning. I played queen d2 here, pawn to h6, pawn to b3, pawn to f6, and this was a final blunder. Here, the king just becomes a little too weak here, and I'm able to crash through. Bishop b2, pawn takes, bishop takes, rook takes here, and unfortunately this was bad because, well, if you try to take on e5 here, I could just take back easily, and then if rook takes on e5, you don't take back, you just play something like bishop h7 check, and you win the queen. Babakuli saw this already, but the mistake was already made. So after knight takes e5, he plays queen to f6. And here I'm just up some extra material here. Knight back to f3, holding everything down. g4 takes, bishop c4 check, king e7, queen d4. I'm going to just trade off pieces here and go to a winning endgame. Queen takes, knight takes, pawn f3. Looks like a scary move because, well, anytime this knight moves, there's going to be some checks. Luckily, I was able to hold my head in this bullet game and just played rook e7 check, and then rook takes, knight e4, and then pawn takes at the end to even win another piece. Alright, not too bad. I got another win underneath my belt. Unfortunately, from now on, Babakuli does not let me win. He just positionally crushes me. We got 2 more games to take a look at, both with Babakuli winning. Here I'm playing with the black pieces, and of course we're going to be seeing a d4 game. Knight f6, c4, c5, d5. Again, strong players against this c5 move in the modern Bayoni, they go to play d5 and just take the spatial advantage. I do the same thing myself now that I'm playing d4 more these days. e6, knight c3, takes, d6, e4, g6. Pawn h3, again, a very good move, stopping these bishop g4 ideas. Bishop g7, knight f3, castles, bishop d3, a6, a4, stopping b5 from being played. Rook e8, putting pressure on the pawn. Here, castles, knight b to d7, and bishop f4 right away, attacking the pawn. Now, I think this is a better move order than he did last time. Here, queen c7, and now rook to e1. Again, I will mention that knight d2, c4 is a very good idea to play, too. Rook e1, knight h5, bishop h2, and knight to e5 here. Here the idea is to make some trades here so that I don't have to worry about his e5 push as he did last time. Fortunately for me, he just does it anyways. Bishop e2, knight takes, knight to f6, and now I want to play knight to d7 and then play to e5. Alright, white to move. What do you play here to get a good advantage? Remember, I do encourage you to push pause if you can. Alright, hopefully you see it. It's not too hard, especially if you play modern Bayoni from the white side. Here, Babakuli just plays e5 anyways. Takes, and then again plays that beautiful breakthrough, pawn to d6. You can do this in your sleep, at least Babakuli can. Queen back to d8. I'm trying to hold the d7 square down. Rook takes or bishop takes e5 here. Bishop e6, but now, he just gets greedy here and takes everything. Bishop takes on b7. Bishop c6 attacking my rook. Oh gosh, I can't even win my b2 pawn back so easily. Rook f8, queen d2. I'm not getting my pawn back. Bishop d7, just trying to make some trades here. Bishop back to f3. Babakuli says, no. Enjoy this miserable position. Queen to b6. Bishop takes. Knight to d5. Oh my gosh. He's just trading everything off, and he has a great position here. Rook e7, rook takes on b2. He blunders a little pawn right here. Queen to d3, bishop f5, queen takes on a6. Now he's got these two pawns, these two passed pawns. I've got this one passed pawn, but his pieces are far more active than mine. And funny enough, even though his rook is on a1, it's very well placed because it's behind the pawn to push it. All right, I went ahead and played rook d2. Definitely, maybe a better chance it was rook takes on f2. Then I could play queen takes on a1. I played rook d2 to attack the d6 pawn and also attack this rook on a1. Rook back, rook takes, queen c4, rook c8, a5, bishop e6, queen c2, and c4. So now it's the c pawn versus the a pawn. A critical difference here, again, he controls the queening square. All right, a6, bishop d5, bishop takes, rook takes, a7, rook back to d8, queen e4, and queen to b6. Game over here. There was really no good way to stop this pawn. I should have just played rook a8, but after queen takes c4, it's pretty easy to see that white's in the driving seat here, and the best I can do really is play for a draw here. All right, well, back to the game. Queen b6 got played, so Babakuli doesn't take too long. Queen takes, queen takes, and I went ahead and resigned. It was 22 seconds versus his 23 seconds, and even I'm not that tricky to go ahead and trick him in this easy endgame. All right, last game by Babakuli. Let's see another positional crush by him against me. Here again, he gets the white side, and d4 gets played. Oh gosh, that's crazy. I think out of the 6 games that we played, he was white for 5 of them. That's okay. The color does not determine the winner. I love when people ask me, what color do you prefer? I always just say the winning side. So d4, c5, pawn d5, pawn d6, c4, e6, knight c3, e5. A nice little different way to play this. I'm always trying to find different variations or pawn structures to play. e4, f5. I did like this idea. Takes, bishop to d3. It looks like he's not too worried about this variation. I believe this is the old Bayoni pawn structure. As you can see, the pawn structure is pretty calm here in the center, or closed. And, well, the only way you can create counterplay is on either the queen side or the king side. With that being said, the queen side over here is pretty much locked down with if white wants to. And, well, that just leaves the king side, and white has this nice move of pawn f4 in the future to open up the center. Bishop g6, bishop takes, of course, pawn takes, queen to d3, already attacking this pawn. Queen f6, knight e4. In this game, I remember this one. This one still hurts. The knights just ran rampant. Queen f5, knight e2, knight to d7, knight to g3, queen f7. These are the kind of games where you just want to jump on your own sword. Knight g5, queen f6, knight to e4. He doesn't even jump to the e6 square right away. A nice move here attacking the queen. Queen to e7, knight to c3. I'm actually pretty surprised here he didn't just play the simple knight e6 move here, but this is a +5 position, and his knights are just doing all the work. Queen f6, knight to e4, queen to e7, knight to b5, threatening the d6 check over here. I went ahead and castled, check, king over, knight back to b5. Now there's simple ideas with taking on d6 and queen a3 for this checkmating idea. Knight f6, trying to make some trades here. To no avail. He does not allow me. He says suffer in this position. Rook h5, takes, queen to a3, king to c8, knight takes check, and I have to give away my queen here. The game goes on from here, but it's just no more fun for me. Bishop takes h3, f5, castles, king c7, g4, rook h4 takes in check, king to b1, takes on e4, rook to g1. Here his rooks and queen are just too strong. Although my pieces are a little bit solid for now, they won't be for long. He's going to crack through. Knight b6, rook g7 check, knight back to d7, queen f3, pawn f4, h4, e4, try to get something going over here. Queen g4, now the pressure's on the knight, which is pinned. Ugh, terrible position. Rook d4, he takes, of course. He's not afraid of these pawns, as the rook and queen can definitely handle these guys. Especially since, well, my rook can't move anywhere, my knight can't move anywhere, so it's really just up to this bishop. If he really wants to, he can just use his king to stop these pawns if need be. And he has a very easy plan here. He can simply just push his pawn forward, and the rook won't be able to defend, as then d7 falls, and then the bishop will fall with it too. h5, e3, h6, d3, takes, queen c4 check. No need to play games here. He's just going to win one of the pawns, and the other pawn will fall shortly. King takes. I try to get my knight in the game finally because I moved out of this pin. Queen takes on e3. There goes my only hopes and pines for a draw or a win here. Rook f8, a3, rook f1 check, king a2, rook to h1, queen b3, rook takes, and queen takes checkmate. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was one of my matches versus Babakuli. We had, let's see here. We had 6 games. I won 2 and he won 4, winning the match. Hope I'll see you guys in the next video.